Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today's episode is about how change comes when you write something down and you share the vision with others. I'm a little bit late sharing this episode because I initially wanted to share it when this guest launched her podcast on Be the Change Media Network. However, life happened and then Be the Change podcast turned 5, but the good news is that I get to share her story this week for the second time. Lubelihle Audrey Mazithulela is a returning guest on Be the Change podcast, and she is now the host of the Beyond Number 10 October podcast on Be the Change Media Network, which launched on the network on May 28th. We recorded this conversation before her podcast launched, so I've included the links to Beyond Number 10 October for you to listen to that after, but for now, let's dive into this episode featuring Lubelihle Audrey Mazithulela.
So my name is Lubelihle Audrey Mazithulela. I am the founding president of Girl Up Bulawayo, a chapter of the Girl Up United Nations Foundation. So I'm also a mental health advocate and a lawyer by profession.
That was a great intro, and welcome back to Be the Change podcast. I'm so excited to have you. Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to get started with this work? You're doing a lot of work in different areas, very intersectional. So tell me about what inspired you to get started making change in general.
Okay, so it's really a personal story I have gotten a chance to share with other people. It stems from my own personal struggles with mental health, more specifically when I was back in varsity. So that is when I opened up to actually the idea of going for therapy. This is something I had not thought about at all at any point. But I just realized that it really doesn't help to just sit in a corner when there are people who can actually help. And mind you, those services were there, free of charge. But still, there was stigma and all of that, knocking at that door and talking to those people. People were just like, oh, okay, you just need to be strong. You need to be that person to go there. Not everyone goes there. So for me, it was difficult, but I found it very advantageous. So after going for therapy and seeing the benefits, for sure, I just thought to myself, I imagine there are a lot of people who are possibly going through the same thing. And definitely there were a lot of people like in my group or on social media, strangers and all of that. So I was like, okay, let me try to put myself out there then, which again was a bit of a challenge because I'm introverted. So I needed to dig deeper and, try to see what works for me. And from that, I learned that you don't have to be the loudest person in the room for you to be heard, for you to make an impact. So as introverted as I am, I have done so wonderful things with my team back home in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. So that is how everything came to be. And I'm very, very excited to see how much I've grown from the last time I was here up to now. I just also remembered that last year around about this time, I was here as a guest. And now we're going to be talking about my involvement with the network as a podcast host. So what a transformation. Yeah.
I think you've had such a this is like a full circle moment, I think. And it's been wonderful to just stay in touch and of course now to see how you've developed your podcast. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I love that you mentioned how you're introverted and how that might impact your activism journey or the way that you choose to share your voice. Can you tell me a little bit about what appealed to you with podcasting? Because I think podcasting can be different for everyone. And I think it's really cool to hear why people are interested in it. But can you tell me about that? Why did you choose to get started with the podcast? What was that decision like?
So I just thought to myself, fair and fine, I've started my work with Girl Up, right? I've been on the ground and all of that. But we live in a digital age, right? So most of the things are online. So I just thought maybe this is my chance to put my voice out there in a different platform. So when I saw the application post, I was like, okay, this might be it. But let me just, put myself out there again. It wasn't the thing I was really planning on, really. But when I just saw it, I was like, you know what? For me to advance with my advocacy, it's very important to explore other avenues as well. So I put in the application and then, I also think it's going to be a good thing to have my voice out there using this platform, because I believe that the more there's dialogue about a certain subject matter, the more there's solidarity on that as well. So the more we keep on talking about a certain thing, I think the more people are like, okay, what is this? Okay, what is happening? So since my podcast will be focused on mental health, all things mental health, by the way, no restrictions, nothing. I feel like, yeah, it's just going to encourage people out there to actually do something, because yeah, it's tough, guys. It's really hard. So the more we talk about things, the more I think we can get moving and actually make meaningful change instead of just talking and talking. I'm really looking into bringing in meaningful engagement, to bring in realistic approaches as well, So yeah, that is the idea I have. And yeah, I'm super, super excited to be doing something I wouldn't ordinarily been able to do. But yeah, it's growth at the end of the day.
I think going through this process with you two and your initial idea, and I love your application, and then just being able to put that into practice and, of course, make it come to life. And now it's going to be going out into the world is just so cool. So tell me more about your podcast. What is the title of the podcast? Tell me a little bit about some of your guests. Tell me about what people can expect when your podcast comes out at the end of May.
So my podcast is titled Beyond #10 October. So it's basically going to be conversations centered on mental health. It's going to be a youth-friendly space, nothing too serious, but we'll be discussing serious things for sure. But I just tried to make it chilled, for lack of a better word, because, it's like I said, I think I'll keep on saying it. Life is hard. That's just it. So I wouldn't want to have an atmosphere that is tough altogether. I just want it to be a very chilled space where people can actually listen and actually understand where I'm coming from. And also, I'm just hoping to hear what my listeners think about it and other ideas, because I myself do have ideas of episodes I want to put out there, but it might not be what people really want. So I'm just hoping that the moment I start posting and engaging, I'll get the feedback from people as well, so that I know what to talk about. I know who to focus on as I go forward. And then with regards to the guests, I will have storytellers for sure. I would really love to have people coming in to share their own stories of resilience and overcoming. I love real life stories because they just bring us closer to life. It's not a fairy tale type of situation or anything. It's just bringing people closer to the realities of life. So those are the people I have on board. Mental health practitioners for sure, but not too much. I'll just have them here and there. Yeah, so I'm also looking into having men in the podcast because, yeah, where I come from, it's still an issue, like having men on board when it comes to mental health issues, opening up and all of that. So yeah, you guys can expect to have like more men joining the conversation and actually explaining why it's so difficult to have them on board when it comes to mental health issues, because that's such an issue, I think, globally. Yeah, the way I look at it now, it's a global situation, not only from where I come from, because I've seen it on social media, on these different platforms with, okay, we need the men, but really, how do we get them on board? So I think by having those ideas all around, it is really going to help, especially with making meaningful change. I do not want it to be a situation where it's all talk and talk and talk, because it's not like my podcast will be a first of its kind. I'm joining a movement. I know a variety of podcasts which are focused on the same subject matter. So this is me joining a movement, but also adding solutions, realistic solutions, things we can practice, so that there is meaningful change at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. And I think this idea of community and joining a movement that is existing is so important. I think you're so right that you get to contribute your insight, but you are part of a global fight. And I think you're part of this movement that people are really trying to talk more about. And it's an issue, like you said, that needs so much more visibility, and we have to keep talking about it. So I think it's incredible that your podcast is going to contribute to that. Can you tell me, if you were kind of putting you on the spot here, but if you were to have like a dream guest or a dream couple of guests, who would those people be? What would they talk about? Tell me about that.
I actually have a wish list, by the way.
Tell me the wish list. Tell me about that.
Yes, I have Vika Tivu on the wish list. She's an education activist. I would love to have her on the podcast because she shares her story as it is, like from when things started up to now. She has done so many things to encourage girls to continue staying at school. She's done all these amazing, amazing events as a UN young leader. I look up to her so much. But what I love mostly about her journey is that she also incorporates her story, like as it happened. It's not all about the PhD she's pursuing, the honorary doctorate she received. It goes back to her childhood, which is very important because as people are listening, of course, they see these amazing accolades. They see all of these things you've done as a person, right? Which is good, which is very good. But what I love about it is that she encourages people through her story. She shares her struggles, her challenges. She is human at the end of the day. And it's so, so, so easy to look up to her because you just look at her and you're just like, okay, she's a person. If she can do it, then for sure, I can do it. So yeah, that is really one person, like fingers are crossed. I'd really love to have her. And yeah, I'm really hoping that she'd also be loved to be a guest on my podcast.
I love that. I think, yeah, that's a shout out to V that you're ready whenever she is. And you would love to have her. I think that's awesome. So I have one more question for you, and this will be fun to see if your answer changed from the last time that we talked. But lots of young people, they want to create change, they want to make a difference, but they might not know how to get started with that work. What advice would you want to share with those people who might be listening?
I think the last time I was here, I said change comes when you write something down. Yes, I think that was my answer. So now my answer is change comes when you write something down and you share the vision with others. Yeah, I think looking back at the person I was last time I was here and seeing how my work with Girl Up Bulawayo has progressed from then, it wouldn't have come to this point if I hadn't found like-minded individuals to share my vision with. I think everything would have just collapsed. Just imagine centralizing your great ideas and trying to push it on your own. It's really hard. It's strenuous. It's just too much. So I'm just grateful that I had the vision. I wrote it down. I found like-minded individuals who just ran with it. So that is my advice. Just get your cool people who understand where you're coming from, share the vision, and then just keep it going from there.
I am so glad that I got to catch up with Lubelli and to share her story again on the podcast because I think her work with Girl Up and her mental health advocacy and now her podcast has just been incredible to follow and now to be a part of. You can listen to Lubelli's podcast Beyond Number 10 October wherever you get your podcasts, and I've included links to the podcast in the description of this episode. So if you'd like to hear more from Lubelli, head over to her podcast and check out those episodes now. To close out this episode, I just want to highlight that last piece of advice that Lubelli shared, which also happens to be an updated version of the advice that she shared when she first was a guest on this podcast. And I love this updated version. Change comes when you write something down and you share the vision with others. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can find Lubelli on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I included those links in the description of this episode, as well as the links to listen to her new podcast. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at Be The Change Media Network. I'm working on expanding Be The Change Media Network, which means bringing you more inspiring stories from amazing guests and incredible hosts like Lubelli. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave the podcast a rating and a comment because it will help these stories to reach, educate, and inspire more people. And I would also love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys!